Right, this is a fairly quick tutorial. It's doing masking out compound paths, clipping paths in Illustrator. This is a way to have your image, your graphic, your photograph, your colors, your texture showing through your lettering or showing through your shape or your design or whatever. So the first thing I'm going to do is use text. So let's make a nice bold text. There's a nice bold typeface to use. Okay, so that's the first part. I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to use it again. I'm going to duplicate it. And to duplicate it on the Mac, you hold an Option and you'll see these two little arrows. Hold down Option, drag. We go into Pathfinder. Pathfinder is in your window menus. So that's your Pathfinder. And it comes up like that. And here's something to look out for. So you basically, your Pathfinder, you want to keep your text. In this case, you keep your text as editable text. So we go in and hold down there and it says make compound shape. It doesn't look like it's done anything, but you'll see how it has. So now I'm going to, on the same layers, so we've got our layers. Where are our layers? There's our layers. We don't need to have a new layer. We can put on the same layer. And it's a good idea to have it on the same layer. I'm going to just make a background color. Okay, let's make it a gradient. We'll just add some color so we can see the difference here. Let's just make that a blue. Let's make that, double click on it. And we will make this a red, for example. And let's put a color in the middle. So we can just click there, double click on it. Let's put a yellow in the middle there. So there's our color, radical colors. There's our color gradient. Now that here is in front. We need to send it to the back. So we arrange, send to back. And there it is. And there is our shape. Now to cut the color out, it's simply a matter of selecting both. Using this cursor here, we select both. Now you can either go select that and shift select that one, or you can simply drag a rectangle across and you'll see that both are selected. And now right clicking, or you can go to the menu, you'd say right make, so it'd be make clipping path. And there we have it. I'm going to undo that. The other way, of course, is just a shortcut, is to right click and it should come up with make clipping path. And there's your clipping path. I can still edit this. I can edit with text. So let's, for example, let's change that to a different font. So there are our fonts. Let's go to something like that. That's fine. There's a change. We've changed the font, showing you how we can edit it. We can edit the size. We can do all sorts of things on here. Let's just change the size of that. Let's take that one down. All sorts of things. So it's still an editable font with a mask or with a clipping path. And in fact, it's a combination of compound and clipping path. And if I go into this view, outline view, you'll see the gradient color background. I can, using this cursor, I can still move this about. So I can change this within there. And I'll show you when I come out of this view what it's done. See, it's moving that within that shape. That's using this cursor. It looks like looks like I'm still working with the background. So good idea before you move it around is to click out, click in again. Don't know why. Now it's keeping the gradient at the right place behind the masking. I'm not sure why it does that. It seems to be a little bit of a bug because it shouldn't do that with this cursor. But anyway, we can resize it now and do whatever we want with it, get it out of the way. So that's your text. That's masking out your text and keeping it as editable text. Next one we're going to do, I'm going to duplicate this again. So I'm going to hold down Alt on the Mac, drag, and just let go. And this time I'm going to bring in a picture. So let's bring in, we'll place a picture. Let's take any picture that can work. Let's have a look, see. Yeah, let's use that one, that's fine. and I'm going to place that here. It's huge, so let's resize it, and I'm just going to resize it roughly. I'm going to squeeze it down a little bit. Okay, so there's our picture. Again, you want to send that to back, so arrange it, send it to back. So we've got this on top of it. Let's just move that down there a bit. That's on top. This is going to be our cutting out, so we want the picture to show through that lettering. Again, we go to Pathfinder, and again we click on that Make Compound Shape. And now if I select both of these and I right click, it should make Clipping Path, and there we have it. There's our picture showing through. And again, the picture is, because it's locked in place, the picture will always be, but we can still shift the picture around behind there. So if I click on here, I can technically move this over the picture. You can see now. And again, going out of there, that should, if I click into, should be locked in place. So there we go. There's our picture showing through. Again, we can resize that, and it'll resize everything. If we went like that, it would squeeze everything, the picture as well. So it's all locked together. So that's now bringing a picture in, or a texture. You could have a texture behind there. You could have a series of images. Actually, it's quite powerful. And the other way of masking is to mask out graphics or shapes that you've made. So let's just do a very rough shape, very rough. Goodness. I'm going to smooth that out slightly. So I go into Object, Path, Simplify, and it defaults at 50%. There we go. And you'll see how it's simplified because it's got less control points, far less control points. So this is not an exercise in doing shapes, but well, let's just modify the shape, make it a bit round, a bit more attractive. Right, there's our basic shape. Okay, and now we're going to use that as a path. So I'm going to go back to that cursor. Let's get that gradient back again. So let's create a gradient behind here. And where's my gradient selection? I think it should still be default. I click once and it'll create a gradient. I don't need it's got an outline. There's the outline. I don't need that outline, but it doesn't really matter because it'll disappear. But so again, we send this to back. So Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And we've got that in front of there. Now this one, again, you just select both and you right click and you say Make Clipping Path. And there we have it. But what I want to do is, before I do that, so I'm going to undo that Command Z on the Mac. I want to change this gradient. So what I want to do is I want to change this to a radial gradient. So make sure you've got that selected. And where are our gradients? There's our gradient. And let's change this from linear to radial. And there we have it. We can change obviously the shape. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the red come in a bit. So it's closer in, make that a bit smaller. Bring the red in. And I mean, you can play around with gradients. You can have all sorts of things you can do with the gradients. So select both, right click, and make Clipping Mask. And there we have it. And I can still add an outline to that. So if I go on to use that cursor and I double click on here, I can, selecting the stroke path, let's give it a stroke of 4 so we can see it. There we go. Sorry, I had my colors, get my colors right. So we're selecting color there, and the stroke, I can change the stroke width, the stroke thickness. And we got one shape there. I can now, very quickly, I can copy and paste it and make it smaller with it. So on the Apple Mac, it's Command C and it's Command F, and there's one pasted on top of the other. Now how you know that is because I'm going to now resize it. And that's just holding down the Shift and the Alt button. And it's centered there. Let's just for the exercise rotate it slightly. And I'm going to we don't need it in here, but just for the exercise, I'm going to stylize this. And I'm going to add a drop shadow. And let's change the drop shadow to something like that. We can preview it. There's our drop shadow. Let's change the color again. Let's get a green. Why not? There's your drop shadow. You can change where it sits and everything. And there we go. But because these are not grouped, you're going to be able to separate. So you can again select all, group them, which is Command G. So now we have one shape, and it's using the mask and the compound clipping mask at least. So there we go. That's it, and I hope that was useful.